This movie franchises the American Danganronpa that we never got and never will get. Last night I got to watch Netflix's Knives Out movie, Wake Up Dead Man, or Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out movie. Either way, it's a Knives Out movie, and I was pretty excited because I love these movies. Pretty much every movie from the Knives Out franchise has not missed, honestly. Everyone has just been a great film to watch, and this one was no exception. It was probably one of the best ones in my opinion. Now, if you don't know, you don't really need to know anything about Knives Out. You actually don't even need to watch the other movies. It's a standalone story. All you need to know is the main character is a detective, and it's not connected to the other ones at all. So yeah, feel free to watch this if you have Netflix. I think it's a really enjoyable film, and I'm going to talk about why. So for this movie, it starts with the story of Judd, who is a former boxer who is now becoming a priest, and he gets into a little trouble and he has to be sent to this new small town where he has to be kind of like an assistant pastor to this new church that's in upstate New York. And this church is led by the Wicks family, and it stars Josh Brolin, who's the main priest, and he is such a character. And this main priest, he's at this church mainly to stay in power and to also secretly get this inheritance, which turns out to be a priceless item worth millions. Now that's really not all too important. All you need to know is that Judd, the main character, comes into this new church and he notices that Josh's character, Jeffrey, is not really the perfect priest. In fact, he's kind of a shitty one. He's constantly scaring away new visitors and really just roasting the shit out of them. And there's only really a small group of people who really stay at his church for the longest time. And these characters are the main characters who eventually do become suspects. And one day on a Good Friday service, the main priest, Josh, or Jefferson's character, he dies. Yeah, just fucking dies. And now it's up to Daniel Craig, or Benoit Blanc, I believe it's pronounced, to solve this murder, because he comes into town and he wants to solve it. I think the setup is a really good murder. I've actually recently played a lot of Danganronpa. This is a very interesting murder, I will say, and it definitely had me scratching my head on how exactly this was pulled off, because it just seemed like it was just such a random act, or like almost even an accident at some point. When Jefferson went to like take a break from preaching, he stepped into this little side room, I believe, where they do confessions, and the next thing you know, he was stabbed and found dead. There's a lot of good talent in this film. There is Andrew Scott, who played Lee, this guy who wants to be a writer, but he doesn't have his spark yet or his main audience, and he's kind of isolated. You have Callie Spaney, I believe it's pronounced, playing Simone, who is a cello player who got into a bit of an accident. I don't really remember what they said specifically, but she has to go through physical therapy and she has to walk around in a wheelchair for the majority of her life, and she goes to this church to get, you know, healing, like spiritual healing. There's Daryl McCormick playing Cyrus, or Cy, who wants to become a politician, who's trying his hardest to do whatever it takes to be viral and popular, and he's not really doing it well, and he wants to be involved in the church because that looks good on a resume. Jeremy Renner plays Dr. Nat Sharp, who is this guy who was divorced by his wife and is just wanting to seek friendship and company. There's also Kerry Washington, who plays Vera, who is also involved with the church and also wants to be more involved in it. That's all I really can say without giving too much away. There's also this character named Martha, who is basically the church's like secretary, but she also does basically every like kind of demanding task, like chore around the church that isn't preaching, and she's in a relationship with the groundskeeper who does work for the church, like cleaning, of course, like a groundskeeper. And those are really all the characters. I thought they were all really fleshed out characters. We really got to know who they were. Obviously, we didn't get to know every single thing. You never really do. But we really did get to see these characters like be, you know, fleshed out. Like we learn about what they want in this movie and how their relationship is involved with the whole crime. I thought the pacing was pretty great with this film as well. It wasn't like too drawn out, too boring. It wasn't too hard to understand, and it seemed like it all pretty much flowed naturally. The camera work was pretty good. There was moments where Judd, the main character, had to like show his true characteristics, and they do this thing where they have the sun shining in, and I can think of a lot of reasons why they did this, but also to be artsy and to show like he really is just an innocent, or maybe not innocent, but he is really like the light that's shining in this church. You definitely will get shocked by what you find out. It's definitely a murder mystery movie. It's gonna trick you, and there's even moments where if you even rewind and go back, and look at the things that they said happened, where it's like, oh yeah, this thing happened. If you look, you could actually go back and see it. It wasn't a trick. This movie has a lot of like meta in it, where like a lot of the characters who were the suspects are basically the other main characters, people involved in the church. They like represent stereotypes of people who go to this church. Like I could tell they wanted to talk about like people going to these churches for the wrong reason and like trying to get something out of it. In fact, it even is mentioned in the movie that Josh's character Jefferson is not even really that great of a person, and he's just kind of an asshole. So yeah, you want to be careful about who you give all your secrets to, and definitely want to be careful like where you go for church. And you know, it's funny because like the Bible tells us about like false prophets, but that's not important right now. I think the character development in this film is probably my favorite part with Judd. I think his whole involvement in this movie was just really well done. Like, it was very natural, very believable, and I really think it was just very commendable, really. Like, this movie, I feel like, should get a good amount of nominations at the Oscars, if it even counts. I don't know, because it literally just came out on Netflix, like, apparently this last weekend. The movie definitely doesn't feel boring at all. You definitely get a few laughs here and there. You do get to go to new places around the church and really explore, like, what could have led to this events. And there's definitely some moments where you're just like, okay, this is not happening. This is not actually happening. So yeah, the movie does a good job of keeping you on your feet. And yeah, it's just a really enjoyable movie. I really feel like if you enjoy murder mysteries, then you're gonna love this movie, honestly. I really recommend it, and it's one of my favorite movies of the year so far, honestly. I know it's a very late contender, but sometimes it happens like that. I mean, that's what happened with the beginning of this year. One of the first movies I saw was one of the best. So yeah, this movie is amazing. I loved it a lot, and I recommend anyone watch it, especially if you love murder mysteries. If you like the Knives Out movies, then this is definitely one of the best ones, if not the best one, in my opinion. And I'm going to give it a good old 9.5 out of 10, and I know that's pretty high. I really don't have really much complaints. That's just what I would give it. But yeah, everyone, what do you think? What do you think of Knives Out? There was no knives also, I'm sorry. Well, actually, there was a knife, but that's not important. You'll know when you see it. Yeah, let me know what you guys think down below, and yeah, I'll see you in another one.